Hi everyone. Today we are going to discuss a relation of class and health. Probably you remember that we have been discussing the issue of class. And we came to the point that class is defined through social structure and also through the class struggle. So class is not something fixed. It is not, and it is not so easy to define the class through images, symbols, and to draw it. Then why to deal with the issue of health? This is also something which we somehow have to think very strong today, because the health is very important, especially in this situation of the prolonged crisis we are living in. So now the health and the class, this discussion and this dialogue needs to be more discussed in this performative drawing. Let's try to do that. So first we will think how to deal with the question of representation of health. What is health? I mean, I don't know. Health is probably participation of bodies in the reproduction process, and this is highly important when we talk about the health. So maybe the health can be described as a body of happy participation of bodies in the joint atmosphere of different things, like, for example, of communication, direct action, or joyful dynamics. But how we can represent this communication or joyful dynamics? Those are all verbs. Maybe we can say that, let's say, correlation can be represented by some kind of pink color, and it can be a kind of amorph body, which has no gender and has maybe some joyful, happy moment at the beginning, and this is probably a kind of communication. Then let's think how to represent the another aspect of health, and this is actually the communication. Maybe for the communication we can use blue, light blue, maybe green color, because communication is something which has to move, and it has different organs of communication which are discussing what communication is. And now we have this communication here, different styles and different aspects. So green and the light blue for the different aspects of communication, and what communication has, its organ, because organ to communicate something. So this is practically participation of bodies in the reproduction process, which is highly important, and this happy participation, for this happy participation sometimes we need a kind of joint action, and joint action is actually this. I would say that this joint action becomes a kind of direct action, and the direct action is very solid structure which has dark colors, and it has maybe two strong hands at the beginning and at the end. So this is how I see this kind of correlation between all these three aspects that we have until now. And which aspect is missing? Maybe it is missing this joyful dynamics of the health, and this joyful dynamics can be represented with pure red, and it also goes into many directions like this, and it goes everywhere, so that we have some kind of fortune, because this health it is important to be streamed, to have some kind of fortune element. So those are the processes which are happening here. But where is now the question of class? You remember from our previous sessions, the class was defined in this class struggle and this machine and organic form and these elements, and probably we are now going to see how it is relating, how it is correlating, and how it is, communicating. It actually goes through this body of happiness, and it is actually cutting it in a certain way. We'll use this element and probably in yellow color in order to explain this intervention of class, actually intervention of the class struggle rather than class in this dynamic process, and to see actually that this dynamic is cutting this body of happiness into different parts. We'll see how to finish this, it is still not certain, and we will now try to draw it in order to explain it more precisely what we want to give here. So let me explain a bit better. So this is first thing what we have had is actually the communication aspect. It's here. Communicating different strategies, and this correlation, which I said it has one big smiley face with no gender and with no statistical expression. But this gender is cut into different elements because of this class aspect exactly there, where we did not actually thought that it will be different. So we have here not only communication but also this joyful dynamics with different fortune kind of elements like organic forms and other options which gives and supports health, like good bacteria, also some nice minerals that can give the health good things, on vitamins. They're also part of this joyful happiness. And direct action is quite strong in this whole process. We imagine these two strong hands, black hands, which are able to act, to do quite strong action. That means that it's very healthy, this element. So we need it on both sides. I said 2 hands. Yes, it's good. So it needs good connection with all this. Especially it has to be well connected with correlation, because correlation is something which gives this smile and happiness to everyone, and it has to be connected well. So it can be a bit of this more descriptive and narrative than other elements, so it is important to have this aspect very well designed. So we'll see now, to finish the communication part, which is always everywhere, it's fluid and it has its own dynamics, and still this dynamics of joyfulness, it's here. And the one which is very well defined. But at this point we have again this element of class, which is cutting it into 2 different bodies, in 2 different pieces. And it is connected as well with these elements. Hands, if you remember, they've been associated with the class struggle. And their dynamics is here important because it is spreading the class importance into the health complex, and it is relocating them to completely another dimension. This is not the same element here. When we talk about direct action, this element of the hand is not the same as the element of the hand here. So it has different connotation. So we are almost approaching the end. Just to understand here that this correlation here has cut, and it is sometimes painful, this cut, and we need to understand that this is not something which is easy, because the class consciousness is actually cutting these bodies in the reproduction process and this participation, but it gives a certain reality, and this reality is important because without this reality we cannot understand the situation and we cannot improve the health. So in order to have health even stronger, we need to understand that this is a painful process. Gaining the class consciousness is actually a painful process, but it is a first step to facing with the reality and facing with a better relation between the health and class. Okay, now we need one more part of this class struggle aspect. Of this side of the class struggle. And then we will slowly approach to the end. And then we will have some few effects which are maybe giving weight to the issues I discussed in this dialogical drawing of health and class. So class consciousness is first step, and the history starts with the first step, with the class consciousness. There is no history without class consciousness, and history is important for improvement. If we don't think of, and we are not able to understand the history, then we are not able to understand the improvement of this situation that we are in, and this huge crisis we are in. So let's think now 2 times before we end what we can do here. I would say we need here a couple of more activities and aspects, and of course I think we should use this in order to and also here, because I told you this process is not really easy to get, because it is cutting this into different pieces, and we have to be aware of this. So I think that this, at the end, this small effect will practically give more dynamic to these issues I have discussed. So I hope you are satisfied with the dynamic of health and class, and I hope you will enjoy our next session and that we will discuss some other issues related to health. Thank you.